In the far corner of the galaxy, where stars burned cold and the void stretched without end, people whispered one name with fear. They called her Kira the Huntress. Her record was clear, her legend sharper than the blade she carried. No target had ever escaped her. No bounty had ever lived past her shadow. She was silent, patient, and merciless. Kira had hunted pirates, soldiers, even alien warlords who thought themselves untouchable. Some begged, some fought, some tried to hide. It never mattered. She always found them. She always killed them. But this story was different, because for the first time, Kira had a target who refused to die. The contract was simple on the surface. One man, stranded on a forgotten mining world at the edge of known space. His name was Darren Vale. No clan claimed him. No empire wanted him. He was a nobody, yet the bounty was the largest Kira had ever seen. Enough credits to buy an entire fleet. Enough power to make even her pause. Why would anyone pay so much for a single man? That was the first mystery. The second mystery was darker. The people who placed the bounty left no trail. No names, no faces, only encrypted codes that even Kira's best slicers could not break. Still, she accepted. Huntress never turned down a challenge. And deep inside, she was curious. If someone was willing to pay this much, then Darren Vale was no ordinary man. Her ship, the Silent Fong, slipped through the void like a shadow. Its black hull absorbed the starlight. Inside, Kira checked her weapons. Twin plasma blades, a rail rifle, shock grenades, and the armor that had saved her life more times than she could count. Every piece was worn, scarred, but trusted. Just like her. Her face was calm, but her mind was sharp. She reviewed the data again. Darren Vale, human male, mid-30s, strong build, soldier's eyes in his picture. But no history, no records, as if the galaxy itself had erased him. The mining world came into view, cold, broken, forgotten. Its surface was covered with ruins of old machines and dust storms that howled like dying animals. A graveyard of industry. Perfect place to hide, perfect place to die. Kira landed without sound. Her boots touched the rusted metal of a collapsed platform. The air was thin, sharp with iron. She moved like a shadow between wrecks and broken towers. Every step was measured, every sense awake. She knew this silence. She had walked it many times right before the kill. Hours passed. The storm grew stronger. Then she saw movement, a figure walking across the ruins, head high, shoulders steady. No fear, no rush. It was him, Dading Vadi. He did not run. He did not hide. He looked straight toward the Huntress, as if he already knew she was there, as if he had been waiting. Kira raised her rifle. Her finger rested on the trigger. A clean shot, easy kill. But something stopped her. His eyes. They were calm, cold, unshaken. Not the eyes of prey. The eyes of someone who had seen death and refused it. For the first time in years, Kira hesitated. And in that heartbeat of silence, Darren Vale spoke. His voice carried through the storm, steady and clear. You won't kill me, Huntress. Not because you can't, but because you'll need me alive. Her breath slowed. Her grip tightened. No target had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever dared. And yet, there he stood, unarmed, uncovered, facing the deadliest woman in the galaxy. Something inside Kira shifted. This was no ordinary hunt. This was the beginning of something far larger. And though she did not know it yet, this man would change everything. The storm screamed around them. Her rifle stayed locked on his chest, but her mind was burning with questions. Who was Darren Vale? Why did he not fear her? And why, deep in her bones, did she feel he might be telling the truth? For the first time, the Huntress wondered if she had met her match. The storm settled into a low growl, shaking the broken towers and filling the air with red dust. Kira stood still, rifle raised, finger steady, but her mind was not calm. For the first time in years, she felt something she almost forgot. Uncertainty. Darren Vale did not flinch. He stood tall in the storm, his cloak whipping in the wind, his eyes fixed on her. Not angry, not afraid, just watching, like a soldier who had already faced every kind of death and found it boring. Why should I need you alive? Kira finally spoke. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the storm. It was not a question she usually asked. She never cared for answers, only kills. But this man, he was different. Darren tilted his head, a faint smile touching his lips. You think I'm your target, he said, but I'm only the start. Kill me now, and you'll never know why they want me dead. Kira frowned behind her visor. It was a trick, maybe. Targets always begged, always lied. But his voice carried no fear, no desperation. He wasn't trying to survive. He was challenging her. Your bounty is worth more than fleets, she said, her rifle never lowering. Enough to make empires tremble. Why would anyone pay that for a man like you? Because I'm the only man they couldn't erase, he replied. They've tried, many times, but I don't stay dead. The words hung in the storm like iron. Kira felt a chill, not from the cold, but from the way he said it. Plain, simple, certain. She had hunted liars before, cowards, braggarts. But Darren Vale was none of those. Her instincts screamed to fire, to finish it, but another voice whispered in her mind, wait. Kira lowered her rifle an inch. Not surrender, not trust, just curiosity. Show me, she said. Darren nodded once, slow and steady. Then, without warning, he pulled a small blade from his belt and drove it across his chest. Blood spilled dark against the storm. He fell to one knee, his body shaking. Kira's eyes narrowed. This was madness, suicide. But she didn't move. She watched. Moments passed. The blood stopped. His skin closed. The wound sealed as if it had never been. Darren Vale stood again, his eyes locked on hers. I told you, he said, his voice calm, I don't die. Kira's grip tightened on her rifle. Every hunter's instinct screamed this was impossible. But her eyes had seen the truth. He had cut himself deep, and yet he lived. Not even scars remained. For the first time in years, Kira felt something new. Not fear, not respect, but something close to both. What are you? She asked, her voice low. He smiled again, but this time it carried weight. Not what, he said, but why? That's the real question. Kira hated riddles, but the storm around them felt smaller now. The ruins less empty. It was as if the galaxy itself leaned closer to hear the answer. Darren stepped forward, slow, careful. You came for a bounty, he said, but you walked into a war. They didn't send you to kill me, Huntress. They sent you to bury the truth. And now that you've seen what I am, you're already part of it. Kira's pulse slowed. The last time someone tried to manipulate her, they ended up with a blade through the heart. Yet Darren Vale did not speak like a liar. He spoke like a soldier delivering bad orders. Straight, cold, and unshaken. What truth? She asked, her voice cutting sharper than her blades. Darren turned his gaze toward the storm, toward the horizon of broken towers. That death is not the end, he said quietly. Not for me. Not for those they fear will come after me. And if they win, Huntress, no one in this galaxy will ever truly die again. Not even you. The words struck deeper than any weapon. Kira felt the storm shift. For the first time, the deadliest huntress in the galaxy realized her prey was not prey at all. He was a doorway, and stepping through it would drag her into something far greater than any bounty. Her rifle lowered fully now, not in surrender, but in recognition. This was no hunt. This was the beginning of a war she had not chosen. And the man before her, the man who could not die, was the key. The storm died slowly, leaving the ruins in silence. Kira stood still, her rifle lowered but ready. She had seen impossible things before, but nothing like this. A wound that healed in seconds. A man who claimed he could not die. Every instinct told her to end it now, finish the job, walk away rich. But another part of her whispered, if he is telling the truth, the bounty is a trap. Darren Vale wiped the blood from his chest, leaving no mark. His eyes stayed on her, steady, calm, unshaken. You're not the first they've sent, he said. They tried assassins, soldiers, machines. Every time I fell. Every time I rose again. Kira's voice cut sharp through the silence. And every time you killed them. No, Darren said, his voice heavy. I didn't need to. They destroyed themselves. Fear is a stronger weapon than any blade. Kira didn't like riddles, didn't like games. But she knew one thing for sure. If this man truly could not die, then every empire in the galaxy would either want to own him or erase him. She turned her visor slightly, scanning the horizon. The dust was moving wrong. Not from the storm, from engines. Small ships, circling above the ruins. Her instinct screamed. They were not alone. Darren didn't even look up. They followed you, he said. They always do. Kira's rifle snapped up again, her eyes tracking the ships. Light cutters, armored dropships. Too many for coincidence. This was no random patrol. This was a kill team. Someone had waited for her to find him. Someone wanted them both erased. The first dropship broke through the storm and hit the ground with a scream of engines. Metal doors opened wide. Black armored soldiers poured out, faceless behind their helmets, rifles raised, moving like one machine. Kira counted quickly, 20, maybe more. Trained, disciplined, dangerous. She shifted her aim toward Darren. Who are they? She demanded. But Darren's eyes never left the soldiers. The ones who fear me most, he said. The Keepers. Kira had heard the name in whispers. A shadow faction, older than empires. Rumors said they guarded secrets too dangerous to exist. And now they were here, on a dead world, hunting one man. Her rifle hummed as she charged it fully. The soldiers raised theirs in reply. The air grew heavy with the promise of violence. Darren stepped forward, his voice calm. You can still walk away, Huntress. They came for me, not you. Kira's jaw clenched. Walking away was never her way. But she needed to know, was this man truly worth the bounty or worth something far greater? The first shot came like thunder. A plasma bolt screaming through the dust. Kira rolled aside, returning fire. Her rifle cracked, cutting 2 soldiers down. The ruins exploded into chaos. Flashes of light, the echo of war. She moved like a shadow, fast, precise, every shot a kill. But even she knew 20 against 1 was a death sentence. Her cover crumbled, her rifle burned hot. Then she glanced at Darren. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but his hands. Yet he walked straight into the storm of fire. Bolts slammed into his chest, his arms, his throat. His body jerked, blood sprayed. He fell, then rose again. The wounds sealed, the blood vanished. He kept walking. The soldiers hesitated. Kira's breath caught. They had trained for war, but not for this. Darren's fist crashed into the first soldier, armor shattering like glass. Another tried to stab him, but the blade snapped against his skin. Every strike they gave him, he took and healed. Every strike he gave them, they fell and did not rise. The battlefield turned. What should have been an easy kill became a nightmare. The Keepers faltered, their formation breaking. Kira moved with them, blades flashing now, cutting the weak points in their armor. For once, she was not the only predator in the fight. Minutes passed like hours. When the last soldier fell, silence returned to the ruins. The storm still howled, but softer now. Kira stood, breathing hard, her rifle lowered. Around her lay the bodies of soldiers who would never tell their masters what happened here. And in the center of the wreckage stood Darren Vale. His armor torn, his body broken, but already healing, already whole again. Kira's visor hid her eyes, but inside them burned something rare. Not fear, not anger. Respect. This man had survived what no one should. This man had made her doubt. She spoke at last, her voice low. They'll send more. Yes, Darren said, calm as the void. And they won't stop. Not until the galaxy forgets I exist, or until someone finally listens. Kira's silence stretched. For the first time, she realized she was no longer the hunter. Not truly. For the first time, she wondered if the real hunt had only just begun. The ruins smelled of smoke and burned metal. Bodies of the black-armored soldiers lay scattered across the dust. Kira cleaned her blade slowly, her eyes never leaving Darrenvale. He stood among the dead, his wounds already closed, his face calm, like the fight had never touched him. She had fought beside killers, soldiers, even machines, but never beside someone who refused to die. It unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. "You should have killed me when you had the chance," Darren said quietly. His tone was not mocking, not proud. It was warning. "They know you stood with me now. Huntress. That makes you part of this, whether you wanted it or not." Kira's grip tightened around her blade. She hated being cornered, hated being pushed into someone else's war. But deep down, she knew he was right. The keepers would not let her walk away. She had seen too much. The wind shifted, carrying a low hum. Kira's visor picked it up before her ears. Engines, heavy ones, far bigger than the dropships they just destroyed. Her eyes flicked to the sky. Through the storm, shadows moved. Large, armored carriers, circling like predators. "They sent more," she said. "They always send more," Darren replied. Kira cursed under her breath. Even she could not fight carriers full of soldiers. Not alone, not with him. She needed a plan. Her ship, Silent Fawn, was hidden kilometers away, buried under wreckage to mask its signal. But reaching it would mean crossing open ground with enemy eyes above. Her mind ran sharp, calculating paths, counting risks. There was no safe choice, only survival. "We move," she said finally. "Follow me, and keep your mouth shut." Darren gave a faint smile, but said nothing. They slipped into the ruins, Kira leading, her movements precise and silent. She knew how to vanish, how to make herself a shadow, even under watching skies. But Darren, he walked too open, too steady, like a man who had nothing to fear. It irritated her, yet also unsettled her. The ruins stretched like a maze. Collapsed towers, broken machines, tunnels carved by storms. Kira led them through narrow paths, always listening, always watching. Above, the carriers searched, beams of light cutting through the dust. Every step was danger. Halfway to the Silent Fawn, Darren spoke at last, his voice low. "You wonder why they fear me." Kira didn't answer. She didn't need him talking, she needed him silent. But he continued anyway. "It isn't because I heal, it's because I remember." Kira's eyes flicked toward him, sharp and cold. "Remember what?" "Every death," he said, his eyes fixed on the ruins ahead. "Every shot, every blade, every scream. I wake again, but the pain never leaves. They think if I vanish, the truth vanishes with me. But I carry it all. Every time they kill me, I bring their sins back to life." For a moment, Kira almost forgot the hunt, the storm, the danger. His words were heavy, like chains dragged through centuries. And for the first time, she thought maybe his curse was not power. Maybe it was torment. But before she could speak, a sharp crack split the air. A sniper shot. Kira shoved Darren down, the plasma bolt slamming into the wall behind them. Stone shattered, dust exploded. Shadows moved on the rooftops. Keepers, waiting, hunting. Kira rolled into cover, her rifle snapping up. One shot clean, the sniper fell. But more followed, silent figures dropping into the ruins, blades glowing, rifles ready. They had been waiting. They had tracked them perfectly. "Trap," Kira hissed. Her blood surged. Fighting here would be suicide, but turning back meant certain death. Darren stood again, his chest already burned from a near miss, the wound closing. "They'll never stop," he said. "Then we cut a path," Kira replied. Her blades came alive, glowing with plasma fire. The deadliest huntress in the galaxy moved. The ruins turned into chaos again. Kira danced between enemies, her strikes silent, precise. Darren fought beside her, not skilled, not trained like her, but unstoppable. Every time they cut him down, he rose stronger, faster. The keepers faltered, their fear clear even through their helmets. But Kira knew this fight was not the end. It was only the chase. The keepers had numbers, ships, resources. She had skill, shadow, instinct, and a man who refused to die. As they cut through the last wave, Kira pulled Darren into a collapsed tunnel. The ceiling groaned, dust falling around them. But it was the only way. Darkness swallowed them. Only their breaths and the echo of pursuit remained. Where does it lead? Darren asked. Kira's eyes narrowed behind her visor. To the graveyard of machines, she said. Old war hulks buried in the dust. If we make it there, maybe your curse buys us time. Darren gave a faint nod, his eyes calm even in the dark. Kira moved first, every step silent, her thoughts sharp. She hated this, hated running, hated being hunted. But more than that, she hated not knowing. What truth was so dangerous that the galaxy's shadows would burn worlds to erase it? Her blades hummed softly in the dark. Darren's footsteps echoed behind her, steady, unbroken. And Kira realized with a strange, sharp unease. This was no longer her hunt. This was survival. And the man who could not die was dragging her deeper into a war she never asked for. The tunnel spat them out into silence. The storm above faded, replaced by the heavy stillness of the graveyard of machines. Kira stepped forward, her boots sinking into dust that had not been touched for decades. Broken hulks of warships and armored carriers loomed like giants around them. Their twisted frames formed a forest of rust and shadow. Engines torn open, weapons frozen in time. It was not a battlefield. It was a tomb. Darren's eyes swept across the wrecks, calm but sharp. He walked as if he had been here before, as if he knew the ghosts hiding in the metal. Kira kept her rifle ready, every step slow. This place, she whispered. It was a war zone. Not just a war zone, Darren answered. This was one of the first places they tried to bury me. Kira turned her visor toward him, her voice sharp. You've been here before? Darren nodded once. Years ago, before you ever heard my name, the Keepers sent fleets to erase me. When they failed, they turned the battlefield into a graveyard, erased it from records, buried the truth under dust. Kira's breath slowed. So the rumors were true. The Keepers did not just kill people. They killed history. Every ruin here was not only metal. It was silence forced upon the galaxy. She felt a strange unease crawl into her chest. Her hunt was no longer about credits. It was about survival and secrets the galaxy was never meant to know. The silence cracked. A faint metallic scrape echoed through the graveyard. Kira froze. Her visor caught movement, shadows slipping between wrecks. Not ships this time. Something smaller, crawling, hunting. They've unleashed the machines, Darren said calmly. Kira frowned. What machines? His eyes darkened. Their oldest tools. Hunters that never sleep. Not soldiers, not human, but metal bred for one purpose. To kill what should not live. The first one crawled into view. Its body was all steel and blades. 6 legs, eyes glowing like coals. It moved silent, smooth, hungry. Others followed, dozens, their shapes spider-like, their jaws dripping plasma fire. Kira cursed under breath. I thought these were myths. They were, Darren said, until you met me. The swarm spread wide, circling. Kira raised her blades, plasma humming. Her blood burned with focus. This was no simple fight. This was survival against machines that had ended armies. The first leapt. Kira's strike cut it clean, sparks spilling across the dust. Another slammed into her side, its claws tearing at her armor. She rolled, twisted, her blade slicing its neck. Metal screamed, but more came. Dozens, hundreds, shadows crawling from the wrecks. Darren stepped into the swarm, unarmed, unafraid. They tore into him, claws ripping flesh, plasma burning his chest. He fell, rose. Every time his wounds closed, every time his fists shattered steel. The swarm could not keep him down, but Kira saw the cost. His eyes burned with pain. Every death left a mark on his mind. Every wound a memory that never faded. She fought harder, faster. Her blades cut arcs of fire. Her rifle cracked lightning. But even she knew, alone, she would be dead already. It was only because of him, because he would not stay down, that she was still alive. Minutes stretched into eternity. The graveyard shook with a war of flesh and steel. When the last machine fell, broken and sparking, silence returned. Kira stood covered in dust and blood, her chest heaving. Beside her, Darren stood whole again, but his eyes looked older, as if each strike had stolen another piece of him. Kira wiped her blade, her voice low. "Why do they fear you so much?" Darren's gaze turned toward the sky. "Because I am proof they can't erase everything. Because as long as I live, their secrets bleed back into the galaxy. And because one day, someone will learn to make more like me." Kira's chest tightened. More like him, soldiers who could not die. An army that never stayed down. If the Keepers were right to fear it, then maybe the whole galaxy should. Her voice was sharp. "And what about you? Do you want more like you?" Darren's eyes locked on hers, cold and heavy. "No," he said. "I wouldn't curse anyone else with this." For a moment, Kira believed him. But deep inside, a thought cut her sharper than any blade. If the truth of his existence spread, others would try. Empires, warlords, syndicates. The galaxy would burn to own immortality. Before she could answer, the ground trembled. From the shadows of the graveyard, a new sound rose. Not machines, not ships, but something heavier, older. Kira turned, her eyes narrowing. Through the dust, a massive shape crawled free. A war machine unlike the others. Towering, armed with cannons larger than her ship. Its eyes burned red like a furnace. And this time, even Darren's face grew grim. "They woke the Titan," he said quietly. "They don't just want us dead, Huntress. They want us erased." Kira raised her blades. Her blood surged, her mind sharp. This was no hunt anymore. This was war. The ground shook as the Titan rose from the graveyard. Its massive legs crushed old warships like toys. Cannons the size of buildings turned slowly, glowing with fire. The air trembled with its voice, a deep mechanical roar that made even Kira's blood run cold. She had fought monsters before, but nothing like this. This was not a machine built for war. It was built for erasure. A weapon made to leave nothing behind. Darren Vale stood at her side, his face grim. "They made it for me," he said. Kira's visor tilted toward him, her voice sharp. "What do you mean?" He didn't look at her. His eyes stayed locked on the Titan. "They built it after I first escaped them. It doesn't just kill. It burns every trace. Bodies, records, memory. Everything it touches disappears. Even immortality." Kira's grip tightened on her blades. "So it can kill you." Darren's silence was answer enough. The Titan moved, its cannons charging. A storm of red energy filled the air. Kira shoved Darren aside as the first blast struck. The ground split open, metal and dust vaporized in an instant. A crater burned where they had just stood. Kira rolled behind a broken ship hull, her heart hammering. Her mind raced. Even she could not fight something like this head-on. It was too big, too armored, too merciless. Darren rose from the dust, his chest burned, his body broken. But already healing, he looked up at the machine with calm fury. "This is what they fear most. Not me living, but me remembered." Kira hissed through clenched teeth. "We can't win this. Not by killing it," Darren said, "but by breaking what it protects." Kira's eyes narrowed. "What does it protect?" "The truth," Darren answered. "They built it here because this graveyard is not just ruins. It's a prison of memory. If we reach its heart, you'll see why they would burn whole worlds just to stop me." The Titan roared again, moving closer. Every step shook the ground. Every cannon blast tore the sky. Kira's instincts screamed to run. But something else burned stronger, curiosity. She needed to know. "Then show me," she said, her voice sharp as a blade. "If I'm already marked, I'll see what you're hiding." Darren gave a short nod. Together, they ran, weaving between broken ships as the Titan's blasts chased them. The graveyard collapsed under fire, wrecks falling like towers of rust. Kira moved like a shadow, fast, precise. But even she knew, one mistake meant vaporization. They slipped through a cracked warship hull, its corridors dark and silent. The Titan's steps echoed above, shaking dust from the ceilings. Inside, the air grew heavy. Old lights flickered weakly, and Kira felt something strange, like the walls were watching. Darren stopped in front of a sealed chamber. Rust covered the door, but faint symbols still glowed. Not human, not any empire Kira knew. Older, deeper. Her visor scanned, but failed. Not in any database, she muttered. Of course not, Darren said. They erased this language long before you were born. But I remember. He placed his hand on the door. The symbols flared, light spreading across the chamber. With a hiss, the metal cracked open. Inside, the air shimmered with blue light, and Kira saw rows of glass pods stretching into the dark. Bodies inside, human and alien, thousands of them, all still, all sleeping. Kira froze, her voice low. What is this? Darren's voice was heavy. Their first experiment. Before me, there were others. Prototypes, failures. Not soldiers. Test subjects. All waiting, trapped in silence. Kira's blood chilled. This was no war, no hunt. This was a crime carved into the bones of the galaxy. Why keep them here? She asked. Because the Keepers don't just erase history, Darren said. They control it. Every empire, every war, every hero you ever heard of. They chose what survives and what vanishes. And I was their greatest mistake. The one memory they could never bury. Kira's hand tightened on her rifle. For years, she thought she understood the galaxy. Power, credits, war, survival. But this was a secret big enough to break everything. Above them, the Titan's roar shook the chamber, dust raining from the ceiling. It had found them, its cannons charged, the walls glowing with heat. Kira turned, her blades ready, but Darren's voice stopped her. You can't fight it, but you can choose. You came here as a hunter. You can still take your credits, walk away, forget this. Or you can stay, see what they never wanted you to see, and carry the truth they fear most. Kira's visor hit her eyes, but inside fire burned. She had never walked away from a hunt. And this was the biggest hunt of all. Not for prey, but for truth. Her blades hummed. Her voice was cold and sharp. Then we go deeper, and if the galaxy burns for it, so be it. Darren's faint smile carried no joy, only sorrow. Then you've chosen Huntress, and there's no turning back now. The Titan roared again, tearing into the graveyard as if the whole galaxy wanted them gone. But Kira no longer felt like prey. She felt like she had just stepped into the heart of the greatest secret ever hidden. And for the first time, the deadliest huntress in the galaxy was not chasing a target. She was chasing the truth. The chamber shook as the Titan tore into the graveyard above. Its cannons thundered, melting steel and rock. Every blast made the sleeping pods tremble. Thousands of silent bodies caught in frozen dreams. Kira steadied her rifle, her eyes sharp behind the visor. She had seen impossible hunts before, but this was more than survival. This was standing inside a secret the galaxy had tried to bury forever. Darren Vale stood among the glowing pods, his hand resting against one. His voice was calm, but heavy with something Kira had never heard in him before. Fear. They're not dead. Huntress. They're waiting. Kira's voice was low, cold. Waiting for what? Darren looked at her, his eyes grim. For the day the Keepers decide to wake them. Soldiers who don't die. An army in the dark. I wasn't their creation. I was their mistake. But these are their design. Kira's chest tightened. Her instinct screamed at her to destroy the pods. To end this before it began. But another voice whispered. If she did, would she be no better than the Keepers who erased history? The Titan's roar grew closer, the ceiling above cracking. Light burned through the dust as metal groaned. They had seconds, maybe less. Kira snapped her rifle toward Darren, her voice sharp. Tell me the truth. Who made you? For the first time, Darren's calm cracked. His eyes darkened. The same people who made them. The Keepers. But I broke free. I remembered. That's why they fear me. Not because I can't die, but because I won't forget. The ground split as the Titan crashed through, its bulk filling the chamber. Cannons glowing, eyes burning. The pods hissed, systems sparking under the heat. Kira and Darren stood in the heart of forgotten sins, and the machine built to erase them was ready to fire. Kira's mind raced. She couldn't kill it, not with blades, not with her rifle, but she could hunt its weakness. Every machine had one. Every prey left a trail. Her visor scanned fast, sharp. The Titan's core glowed bright in its chest. Too strong for her alone, but maybe not impossible with him. Vale, she shouted over the roar. You want me to carry the truth? Then earn it. Help me kill this thing. Darren's face hardened. I can't kill it. Then keep standing until I can, Kira snapped. Her blades lit with plasma fire. Her blood burned with focus. She was the deadliest huntress in the galaxy, and she had never walked away from prey. The Titan fired, the chamber exploding in fire. Kira leapt through the blast, her blades slicing into joints, sparks flying. Darren charged the core, taking the full storm of cannon fire, his body torn apart. He fell, rose. Every wound closed. Every scream fueled another step forward. Kira moved like a shadow, cutting cables, blinding sensors. The Titan roared, thrashing. But she was too fast, too precise. Every strike weakened it. Every distraction Darren gave dragged it closer to collapse. Finally, Kira's visor locked on the exposed core. A single glowing sphere pulsing with stolen power. She leapt, blades crossing. The strike cut deep. The chamber filled with light. The Titan screamed, a sound that shook the galaxy's bones. Then silence. The giant crashed, smoke and fire spilling into the pods. Kira landed hard, her armor scorched, her blades dim. Her chest heaved, but she was alive, and so was Darren Vale. His body was burned, broken, but already healing. He stood, his eyes locking on hers. For once, there was no calm, no smile. Only exhaustion. You see now, Huntress. This isn't about credits. It never was. This is about memory, and memory always fights to survive. Kira stared at the rows of pods, thousands of faces trapped in silence. If even one of them was like him, if even one could not die, the galaxy would change forever. Her blades trembled in her hands. Destroy them, and she killed the truth. Leave them, and she risked unleashing something greater than any war before. For the first time in her life, Kira the Huntress did not know her next move. But deep inside, she knew one thing. Her hunt was no longer about the man who would not die. It was about the truth the galaxy feared. And now that she had seen it, if I lose control, you must end me. The massive walker charged its cannon, the ground shaking. Her body glowed brighter than ever, her cracked helmet shattering piece by piece. Raylan's finger tightened on the trigger, caught between killing her or fighting beside her. The battlefield held its breath, and then the screen went black. She could never walk away. The storm outside roared, the graveyard burned. Daring vali sotod umbroking. And Kira, the deadliest huntress in the galaxy, realized she had finally met her match. Not in strength, not in death, but in truth. The hunt was over, and the war was about to begin.